G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for some more Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a bit of a summary of what's going to be coming in patch 2.3.0, which Blizzard is calling one of the biggest patches since the launch of Reaper of Souls. And at the end of that short summary, I'll also share with you guys an interview I had with two of the game's developers. So patch 2.3.0 has three main pieces of new content. First up is Kanai's Cube, a new crafting artisan. The second is a new zone, the Ruins of Secheron, which is a callback to Diablo 2. And then the third piece of new content is the Seasonal Journey, an overarching quest system for seasonal play. On top of this, there has also been significant rebalancing and improvement to many areas of the game, especially adventure mode. So first up we have Kanai's Cube, the new crafting artisan. This cube has multiple uses, including turning yellow items into legendary items and converting one set item into another from that set. The primary function, however, is to extract a legendary effect from an item, which can be used by the player as an additional passive bonus effect. You can get one armor effect, one jewelry effect, and one weapon legendary effect. This allows you to enhance existing builds with additional legendary effects that increase your damage or provide reduced resource costs, or it can potentially unlock new build possibilities where you take an extra bonus from one legendary that allows you to use a new skill in a build that you couldn't use before. There's also some fun other little bonus things with the Kanai's Cube, like for example if you throw a puzzle ring in there, you can open a portal to the Realm of Greed. And I also heard something about a cow level too. The new zone, the Ruins of Secheron, is a completely new tile set full of new monsters and new traps, as well as new bounties in adventure mode. On top of that, the lore goes that the barbarian hero Kanai managed to save the cube from destruction when Baal was destroying the city, and players can retrieve the Kanai's Cube from doing a quest in here. And then thirdly, we have the Seasonal Journey. This is a quest system for the overall season. It's designed to have basic quests for players who casually dabble in seasons to get some cosmetic rewards, and then more intense quests for the really committed players to strive for. There's going to be a variety of cosmetic rewards. They seem to have really ramped things up from previous seasons. In addition to rebalancing of various skills and things like that, adventure mode has been significantly retuned and improved. Each of the three main features, bounties, rifts, and greater rifts, have been overhauled. The intention was to make each of the three different features desirable for different reasons. In terms of rifts, you don't need rift keystones anymore, rift bosses have been updated and rebalanced, and the idea has been to make more time exploring and killing and less time fighting the boss. And rifts overall, in terms of their appeal, are supposed to be the best way to get loot in general. In terms of greater rifts, the groan-worthy rift trials have been removed, and you can now skip ahead to any rift level that you've completed in the past. Greater rifts are intended to be the best way to get experience, as well as being the competitive mode between players. And thirdly, bounties have been overhauled as well. The bonus system now provides an additional loot cache, and it moves from act to act as you complete an act that has the bonus. Kanai's Cube crafting items have been added to each act's bounty cache as well, so bounties are intended to be the best way to obtain crafting materials overall. On top of that, crafting has been overhauled a great deal as well. In addition to the Kanai's Cube, regular crafting has been improved quite a bit. The developers explained to me that they were taking a fewer better design philosophy, so this means that recipes have been condensed and rebalanced. I also noticed that there are now new achievable and useful options for leveling legendaries and early endgame stepping stone items. So that's a quick summary of what's coming in 2.3.0. I'll now share with you guys an interview I had with lead designer Kevin Martens and associate designer John Yang. The Hellfire Amulet, the Kanai's Cube, ancient legendaries, new legendaries you guys are adding, and the Hunt for Paragon levels, all these things kind of represent goals or incentives or things to achieve in the game. This range of things now seems to be getting really good, especially with the addition of the new Kanai's Cube and every season new set legendaries and such. But the other side of the game, the way that you hunt these things, seems to be a little less diverse. Is the D3 team currently looking at other options to expand out what players can actually challenge themselves with? So it could be other features for adventure mode parallel to bounties and rifts, or it could be expanding out the customization of rifts, adding extra challenges for extra rewards and things like that. That's often discussed. Have you guys been discussing this internally much?
When you say that the ways to get items are less diverse, could you explain that a little bit more? I think over the last few patches...
Less in terms of the ways you get items because of, for example, the Kanai's Cube allows you to reroll legendaries and things like that, but more about the content in which you challenge your character. So the actual, your killing of monsters, where that occurs and how that occurs.
Yeah, and so the replayability, I think, has obviously been a huge focus for us for a long time. And this patch is very much aimed in that same direction. That's certainly the primary goal of the patch. So when we are tuning adventure mode, we have a ton of content in the game, and that's sort of where the whole concept of adventure mode came to begin with. We don't want people playing the story over and over again. Ideally, maybe one time moving to adventure mode is how we like people to experience that these days. We learned a lot since vanilla came out. So as a result, having people go through all of this content in mixing and matching in different ways on a regular basis was important. People hadn't been playing many bounties anymore, and they had a few reasons for that. So we tried to address those reasons, add new, better rewards to bounties, and make them do something that the other two modes didn't do again. So we did that, so people will be finding more things like that. And of course, in previous patches, we added blood shards and Kadala. The cube also gives you the ability to upgrade yellow items into legendaries. So that's yet another way to get them, and transferring set items into other set items and so on. So I think there's more ways than ever, and 2.3 added several more.
Yeah, to add on top of that, I think the balance before 2.3 was if you wanted items, blood shards, anything, you just go greater rifts and do only greater rifts. But now with the addition of torments 7 through 10, the non-greater rift, the normal rifts are a little bit more challenging, a little bit more rewarding, double death threats, stuff like that. So you're more incentivized to go there. Additionally, with Kanai's Cube, a lot of the crafting mats and the overhaul of crafting, a lot of the crafting mats come from bounty bags. So you're further incentivized to go there. But at the end of the day, I think players will find, the most efficient way to find their gear and blood shards. And it will probably be greater rifts in the end, but I think we've added many reasons to do normal rifts and bounties at this point, just to change it up for at least a while until you've collected every single legendary item in the power in the game.
And by the way, we've tuned, I think I mentioned this earlier, we did tune the rift bosses so you have more consistent experience when you are doing rifts or greater rifts as well, so you don't have to farm. If you're trying to be super efficient or really push a greater rift, you don't get to an end boss and say, oh, well, this run is screwed, right? I got the wrong boss or something. We're trying to match them as well. The power set tuning to have the old sets be comparable in power as well as to add brand new ones of equal power. That's also along the same lines to give people a variety of experiences and to make the existing features better. That was a pretty long
Yeah, right. The balancing of the bounties, rifts, and grifts seems to be improving the diversity quite a bit. How about adding extra challenges outside of levels, like increasing torments or increasing greater rift levels? Is that something you guys are looking at for the future?
Sorry, like different things other than making the existing features better?
Adding extra, well, it could be improvements to the existing features. For example, like what was often talked about in the past was like craftable rift keys. We obviously don't have rift keys anymore, but there could be like, for example, I think it was, there was like a new Van Helsing style game that came out with cards where you could enable a card which would make everything in the game have some extra difficulty challenge and you gain some extra reward.
Yeah, actually, we experiment with stuff like that all the time. Certainly, I'm not going to announce anything today because we don't. To be honest, there's nothing that's so far along that it's like, yeah, I'm going to be releasing it in a couple weeks or something like that. We do try to find different ways of challenging players that are going to be fun in the long term. Sometimes we'll find a way, this is fun for a few hours, but it's not fun long term, and so we usually go back a little bit back to the drawing board and try to find a better route on it. So yeah, we do look at different ways to do that all the time. 2.3 has a bunch of them, but as far as brand new ways, I don't know, stay tuned, we'll see.
All right, thanks, guys. So one of the big topics of discussion at the moment is the changes to XP sharing mechanics. So the result of this change to the party sharing of XP is that it's becoming more efficient, significantly so, to have 1 to 2 people in your party running XP gear and becoming leeches, which is a kind of an ironic term given that it's a symbiotic relationship. But the gameplay effects so that party play is becoming significantly more necessary to be competitive in terms of Paragon leveling in seasons, and that the pace of gameplay overall is slowing down for everyone when you're having people not directly engaging in combat as such. So how do you guys feel on the Blizzard team about this meta shift, and are there any like solutions or anything you're exploring, or do you even consider it to be an issue?
I think we definitely talk about it, we definitely look at it. We had a meeting just earlier this week about it. So
I think that was yesterday. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, so there are a lot of factors in the equation. I think first we want to start with the statement that we always want to make sure group play is better than solo play, because if you ever say, hey, I have a friend who wants to play with me. Oh, he's not as efficient as me. I'm not going to group up with him. I'm going to go play by myself. We failed. And that is something we want to make sure doesn't even come close to happening. And that's why we have things like, when a second player joins the party, monster health doesn't double. It only goes up by 50%. Because, I might have a friend or a brother who's half as strong as me, 60% as strong as me. I still want to be able to play with them, and that's something that helps. I think it's as a matter of degrees. I think right now, numbers thrown out are group experience is 2 to 3 times as efficient as solo, and that may or may not be too high. I think we've looked at and talked about things like the multiplayer buff, the 50% health per player addition. We look at group buffs like Warcry and Mantras and how they contribute. We've taken a look at all the multipliers and put them together and basically said, here's the number that we think group is better than solo. Are we okay with this? What can we take away? What do we want to take away? We don't have anything announced at this time, but
the assessment's still in progress, essentially. So we are looking at it, like the specific thing that you mentioned where you'll have 2 party members running XP gear, and so they're not contributing as much to damage. It slows down the pace of the game. We tend to not want to remove an option completely like that. Like I would hate to just go right to say, hey, we're just going to cap, your maximum XP gain or something like that. I'd rather say, oh, if you want to get more XP for whatever reason you're trying to level up quickly, that is a valid thing. When a more boring type of gameplay becomes the standard way of doing it, that's when we look at tuning it. And certainly not everybody is doing that. Many of the elite groups are talking about doing that or doing that. And so that's why we do take a look at it. So many of these systems serve multiple audiences, right? Like Endless Paragon serves a certain type of player, and Greater Rift serves a different type of player. And often there's crossover, but when one of them affects the other, we try to find a way to maintain the benefit to everybody while still addressing the more the very the very serious player's concern.
So it's kind of a wait and see if it becomes too predominant at this point?
Well, we're already looking at if it needs to be adjusted. So I do not think it has actually become predominant, though some players will say, that's all I do. So for them, it's more than predominant, right? So it's fair both ways. Not everybody is doing that. Some people are doing it and they're finding it boring, but they also believe that it's compulsory for them to do so in order to maintain efficiency. And that's why we'll have very serious discussions about it. Yeah. That's more of a philosophy statement than an actual, here's what the fix is, right? Like John said, we talked about it as recently as yesterday, which means we're thinking about it today. So it's in progress.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. There's a kind of a similar related question or topic is that the effect of Paragon levels in seasons, especially as far as competing in Grifsco and the impact Paragon levels have, which is seen to be fairly significant. How do you guys feel about that? It's kind of related to this topic, given that if Paragon having a much higher Paragon level is a significant advantage, then if this method is faster in getting Paragon levels, then that's what most people will be doing that want to compete. So how do you guys feel about the impacts of Paragon levels specifically on like the competitive side of the game?
So I think Paragon levels there's 2 competing issues when we talk about capping Paragon levels for Greater or something like that. One is we left Paragon levels infinite because we want players to always have a way to progress. The complaint from the competitive side is Paragon levels are too impactful on the power level of players. The top players are all Paragon 1200, 1600, who knows. We recognize that Paragon levels are very powerful, but the positive benefit they have to driving forward the game for players, even at high levels, is very important. That's another issue that's similar to group experience that we're also talking about. I think the group experience bonuses, multiplicative XP, and Greater Rifts, that all contributes to the high Paragon levels. We don't really have any solutions, any solves for this right now, but yeah, it's just kind of
it's really is exactly the same philosophy issue. It's probably an even better example of it where Endless Paragon that is with a ramping difficulty sort of built into it is inherently good for everybody. Every player that reaches the end game benefits from Paragon. So the number of people that are actually hyper competitive on the leaderboards that can get to top 1,000, let alone top 100 or top 10, are much fewer amount of people, but they're in no way unimportant players. So we spend all this time tuning the upper ends of Greater Rifts that, frankly, the a huge percentage of the players are not playing at that level, but we still do find it important to do that. So we have an outsized amount of time that we spend for the competitive players, but we couldn't, actually sacrifice the benefit of Paragon level for everybody just to make the top 100, competitiveness take less time. So that's part of the reason why it's a difficult problem.
So on that note then, of not sacrificing it for everybody, some players are advocating the idea of a Paragon cap for seasonal Rift competition. How do you guys personally feel about that sort of idea?
We're willing to consider it. Anytime you limit it, Paragon is endless for a reason, which John just went into. So I'm always reluctant to cap it, even for a small percentage of players. So while that is something that we will discuss, I'm leery to do it because, if somebody does spend a whole much more time in the season, what benefit should they get from that? They spent that time, don't they deserve that benefit? Okay, yes, but what if seasons takes, 1,000 hours to play? That's also not good. It's an interesting push and pull.
Yeah, we're really worried to make any changes that will benefit a small subset of people, but might also harm another small subset of people. Like, example I've heard is, the top 100 players, maybe they want an balanced playing field, maybe they want Paragon to cap at 800 or something, but maybe there's a guy out there, some guy who plays a lot of the game, isn't very skilled, doesn't care a lot about being number one on leaderboards, but he wants to keep progressing. And after Paragon 800, after he's found all his best and slot items, maybe he's just trying to get a few more Paragon levels.
Okay.
And keep going up the ladder, his own ladder.
I see what you're saying. I think the idea is less to have a Paragon cap, like a hard cap that it happens in the regular gameplay, but instead like a scaled back Paragon when you enter the Greater Rift competition.
Right. It caps the effect of it or something, so people know how.
So it cuts off your dexterity above a certain point, for example.
Right. Yeah. We'll discuss it. We have been discussing it.
Alrighty, sure thing. Last thing I'd like to ask it then is just a little question about the development process. How is it delegated which developer works on which class, and do they have total control over that class for that period, or is it more of a team sort of oriented thing?
We have a very group environment for all system design work. We all sit in one room together, and we have a couch in the middle with a table, and we all have chairs that rotate, and we usually when you have an issue or you want to run something, you just turn to the room and say, hey guys, would you take a look at this, or what do you think of this? We have regular class reviews. Our quality assurance team is really good at giving feedback on this stuff, and we have a playtest pod and so on. So they do not have complete control over it. So you couldn't, for example, say, hey, John's working on Barbarian, but just send him the right amount of bribes in Bitcoins. He'll give you my Barbarian. Right? No,
I'm pretty sure that was the point of this question.
Discuss these things carefully, whether it's just tweaking, a particular rune on a skill or adding a new item. It's a group effort, and we try to use the wisdom and experience of everybody to do that. And then, of course, PTR is a huge part of that feedback mechanism as well. As far as assignment, it's usually when something comes up, whoever's open. All the system designers play all the classes a lot. Probably a scary number of hours, really. So there's no bad options for that. Often someone will come up with a pitch. Hey, I want to do this witch doctor set. Here's my idea for it. Well, I'll brainstorm. We'll come up with some tuning on it, and then that person will go and make it because maybe they're the one that brought the idea to the group.
I think every season of patch, the developers try to rotate through the classes. Play different classes.
Fresh eyes help. Yeah.
I think something Wyatt also says is we try to make sure we have champions for every class. At least one champion for every class around the design pit. Just to make sure that someone's looking out for the monk or the witch doctor or the barbarian. I can definitely say around the office, all 6 of the classes are covered. We've got champions here. Definitely no one owns any class, but we'll work on the classes.
It's good to know that there's at least someone looking out for each class.
Yes.
Making sure they don't get left behind. Thank you guys very much for your time. I appreciate the interview opportunity and all of your answers.